Welcome to Conflict News 24. Today's news bulletin includes news stories from China, Iraq, and Belarus. On a Sunday, new Chinese president will be chosen. Secondly, in Iraq, Muqtada Al-Sadr, influential Shia cleric, has refused to be part of a new government expected to be formed by Shia al-Sudani candidate backed by an Iranian pro-Iran faction. Thirdly, Belarus, where Russian soldiers are arriving, officially confirmed today by Belarusian Foreign Ministry. Firstly, viewers, China. China is led by Chinese Communist Party, CCP. One party system. CCP is the main party in China, in power for around 7 decades. There are some other parties as well, but very small parties. Mainly it is CCP with 90 million members. And the party holds a national congress every 5 years. Before this national congress, local elections are held and party delegates are elected. Around 2,294 delegates are elected in local elections across China. Then these delegates meet in Beijing, Chinese capital, and that meeting is called National Congress. Arshido, they call it Arshido as well in Chinese language. And in that National Congress held after 5 years, party's general secretary is elected, and that general secretary is basically the president of the country. Mao Zedong, founding father of modern China, was the only Chinese leader who used the title President of CCP. Other Chinese president who took office after Mao Zedong always used the title Secretary General of the party. So on Sunday, CCP's new Secretary General will be elected. Xi Jinping, serving a Chinese president, took office in 2013. He has served as the president of the country for 2 terms. Only 2 terms were allowed for a Chinese president, according to Chinese constitution. But when Xi Jinping was elected for his second term in 2018, he scrapped this restriction. It means that for the 3rd term, he can be elected. On Sunday in Beijing, thousands of delegates will elect party's central committee, party's secretary general. Week-long congress is going to start in coming hours in Beijing. Reportedly, Xi Jinping will be elected for another term, for 3rd term. So either he will be elected as party's Secretary General, like he is serving as party Secretary General. So once again, or reportedly he could be elected, he could be given the title as President of the party, the title which was used only by Mao Zedong, founding father of China. It means that Xi Jinping could be elected in coming days as the new president of China for 3rd term. In the past 5 years, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, Xi Jinping delivered in terms of fight against COVID. When COVID spread to COVID-19, it started mainly from China. Rest of the world was just a spectator. and some leaders like Trump of the US were seen making fun of people of China, of the virus. But later you saw that the virus engulfed the entire world. So China spearheaded the campaign for eradication of COVID, and it delivered. Chinese government delivered. So that is why there are no strong rivals to challenge Xi Jinping. Some have been put behind the bars over corruption charges, over other charges. So mainly he is expected to be elected for another term as the president of the country. Xi Jinping's friend Putin is also in power for years in Russia. For around 18 years, Putin has been in power in Russia, with just a 4-year break between 2008 and 2012. Leaving that period aside, Putin in power in Russia. Now Xi Jinping as well going to be chosen as the president of the country for the third term. Secondly, was Iraq, where influential Shia cleric, a politician, head of a political party, has refused to be part of new government expected to be formed by Shia al-Sudani, a politician backed by a bloc which is a pro-Iran bloc in Iraqi politics. Muqtada Al-Sadr's party contested last year's general election held in October in Iraq. The party won most seats in the parliament, but the majority was not enough to form the government. Since October, efforts were underway, but Muqtada Al-Sadr or other rival bloc backed by Iran could not form the government. And just a few days ago, new president was elected in Iraq. Abdul Latif Rashid was elected as the new president. MPs elected him, I think, 3 days ago. And Abdul Latif is going to invite Iran-backed coordination framework bloc to form the government. This Iran-backed faction is going to form the government, which is being rejected by Muqtada Al-Sadr even before the formation of the government. Muqtada Al-Sadr's MPs are in the parliament as well. So if the other faction backed by Iran forms the government, what will Muqtada Al-Sadr party do? Will it resign? Will it start street movement? Or will it take control of the parliament like we saw a few weeks ago when Muqtada Al-Sadr party supporters took control of Iraqi parliament? Iraqi parliament remained under their control for several days. Then Muqtada Al-Sadr party workers attacked presidential palace in Baghdad's green zone. There were clashes. Dozens were killed in those clashes. Then Muqtada Al-Sadr announced to quit politics, and it led to further violence and escalation. Later he told his supporters, his followers to stay calm, and there was gradual de-escalation. It means that once again things are moving towards escalation in Iraq. Shia al-Sudani's government will be rejected by Muqtada al-Sadr. He is making it clear. Iran, US, both are fighting for political influence in Iraq. Iran backs some factions, US backs some Kurdish factions, and Muqtada al-Sadr has huge following in Iraq. Though he is not backed by Iran or by US reportedly. So there are several players in Iraqi politics. Let's see First thing is, can Shia al-Sudani form the government? And will some party MPs of Muqtada Al-Sadr back Shia al-Sudani's government? Could there be internal revolt in Muqtada Al-Sadr's party, which is being hinted at by some experts? Lastly, viewers, Belarus today confirmed the arrival of Russian troops. Few days ago, Belarus and Russia announced the formation of a joint regional military command. Belarus has been claiming that Ukraine, NATO were planning an offensive on Belarus. Ukraine saying the same, that Belarus and Russia are planning a military offensive on Ukraine like they did in February and March this year. Tensions rising on the border. Ukraine is demanding deployment of international observers on Ukraine-Belarus border. Though no observers have been deployed so far, Russian soldiers are arriving in Belarus. Lukashenko, Belarusian president, was heard saying that around 70,000 Belarusian troops will be part of this joint Russia-Belarus military command. How many Russian soldiers will be part of this military command? It's not clear. Maybe several thousand. Only point is the purpose behind the formation of this joint military command defensive or offensive? Ukraine says Belarus Russian preparations are offensive. They are planning an attack on Ukraine. Belarus says all its preparations are defensive. But arrival of Russian soldiers has now been officially confirmed by Belarusian government today. Thank you for watching.